Hey, Com252, this is Joe. Welcome back, and we're almost done. Yay! Hopefully, you're getting your paper and your presentation done a lot. Several of you have already turned it in. So, this is going to be chapter 13, Friendships with Friends. Friends, I was never, so let me start over. I was never overly blessed with good looks, intelligence, money, but I have been lucky and blessed, if you want to use the word, whichever word you feel better about. Blessed, lucky, fortunate, with friends. I've had some really good friends over these years. Two of my best friends, that's my Christmases. I wait for that Christmas party every year. It's great. Back to when we were talking about families earlier, you kind of picking your families. I don't know that you get to pick your friends. I guess there's a certain amount of that, but sometimes friendships just happen. Here's the book's definition. Oh no. Here's the book's definition of friendship. Friendship is voluntary, interpersonal relationship characterized by intimacy and liking, whether it's casual or close, short or long term. Friendship is voluntary. People say that. The book says that. But every one of you in here has a friend that you've looked around after 5 or 6 years going, why are we still friends? But we are. Every one of you. Or maybe it's just me. There's one in particular. I did a short film over a decade ago. And every once in a while, my friend, let's call him Mark. It's not his name. Mark texts me, and I still see Mark, and Mark still shows up, and I can't stand Mark's. It doesn't matter. Mark's fine. Mark's a nice person, and he's still in my life. I was like, shouldn't he have went by the way? Why did that happen? Friendship is driven by shared interests. I don't know. It is a lot, but then again, you have friends. For example, I have friends who are completely different than me politically. And I'm still friends with them. And I don't know that we have much in common, but I have some respect for them. Not necessarily about their political beliefs, but for other reasons. Friendship is characterized by self-disclosure. You know things about your friends. Your friends know things about you. You have friends and there are different levels of friendship. You have friends who you will tell everything to, and then you have friends not as much. And then you have friends you'll tell them about this, and you have other friends you won't even tell them about that. Think about it for a second. Friendship is rooted in liking, just genuinely being around someone in their company and liking it. Friendship is volatile. I had a friend, and he was at I had my son later, and well, I was able to get my son. Well, I'm not the mom, but my son was born later in my life. And he was at the baby shower, and he cried for joy, for happiness for me. And several years later, stopped talking to me. I've still never been given a reason. I think I know, but I'm not for sure. And he's never told me. And we don't talk about it because we don't talk. And mutual friends that we have don't know or won't tell me either. It's interesting just how volatile friendship is. Like any relationship, it can go south, it can go awry. Friendship functions. Friendships are companions. They sometimes help you achieve goals. And sometimes the best friends that you call best friends are the ones that you keep across a lifespan. So I have two best friends, Chad and James. One of them is my best friend and the other one's my brother. What I mean by that is I don't, to my knowledge, have a brother or a sister. I'm an only child, to my knowledge. And Chad is my longest relationship. I met him in college. So it's been 106 years, is my longest relationship of someone who's consistently in my life that I'm not related to. So he's not my mom or my dad or an aunt or an uncle or a cousin. And he's consistently been in my life for 108 years. We don't agree on much. We don't always get along. But I know if I called him and truly needed something, he would do it. And I love him. I love his daughters. I love his family. Doesn't necessarily mean that we all get along. The longer you have a friendship, I think the rule of thumb is like 7 years, the more likely it is to last. Friendship, culture, and gender. Intercultural relationships are those between people, and gender affects friendship. I want to talk about not necessarily gender as in girls having friends are different than girls and boys having friends are different, but Gender when it comes to your friendship. So one of the things about my last few years of my life, and it changing so much, and you all don't need to know about all of that, is that I forgot how much I enjoy having women as friends. Women are wonderful friends. Sometimes they're the best friends. And the same thing with women having men friends. But how many of you are in committed relationships right now where it's like, do you have friends of the opposite gender? And if you do, sometimes it's tough because you're in a relationship. Yeah, we tend to part ways with different people as we get in other relationships. Not necessarily that we forget about them, just because sometimes our partners, those romantic ones, aren't as accommodating. The book talks about friendship and technology on page 358. And I think it's fascinating. I worked for a lady once, and her husband had this comment, and this long time ago, over a decade. He never said it to me, but she said it all the time. So it's a stuck in my head about the natural progression of most friendships before 20 years ago, before 2 decades ago, was you met somebody, you may have had a friend at work, you left that job or they left that job. You may see them, you may think about them, but it kind of, social media has stopped that. So some of you, I don't have any friends from high school. I just don't. I have friendly-ish on social media. They've added me, but I hated high school. Still the worst 4 years of my life at 108 years old. Didn't care for it. Some of you all out there like this, and some of you are like, I don't know, somebody loved high school. And some of you peaked in high school. That's just the way it is. Like it'll never get any better than high school for some of you. And that's kind of not you all, but I always thought that's kind of sad. But anyway, I hated high school. I loved college so much so that I've technically never left. And I find it fascinating that because of social media, a lot of generations after me are still friends with all these people in high school, even though they've moved on and run away. And that's great. I actually think I'm not knocking them. I think it's fascinating because my two best friends, one of them's because of college and the other one's because of a college. I totally get it. But friendships don't terminate as they used to. You tend to hang on to some of them. And what I mean by I had some friends in high school, just a lot of them are now dead because of substance abuse in life. And that's what happens. My close friends in high school are all gone to my knowledge. There are some people out there that I know, but some of you now have had friends since my uncle, who's now passed on. His best friend he met in kindergarten because he kicked some dirt in my uncle's face and knocked him down, and they became best friends. And they were friends until my uncle passed when he was in his 60s. Those friendships are more valuable than gold. The people that can know you that long, the people that can understand you, the people that know you and know your flaws, as my friend James would say, I've seen him at his best and I've seen him at his worst, and still accept you for who you are. Hard to put a price tag on that. And then we have best friends, friends that we call our best friends. And I always say two. I have friends that are close to me. I have friends maybe that I talk to even more than my two best friends. But it's really hard. My son, there's two more actually. You know what? I am really blessed with tons of friends. When we start talking about this, we have to keep these relationships. We have to communicate. They take work. They take effort, right? One, here are some of the best ways of following friendship rules. Show support. Shocker. Seek support. That's what I suck at. I am terribly independent. I do not like asking people for help. I don't want to ask people for help. I like to be self-sufficient. My biggest fear past anything happening to my son is that I end up eventually in a situation where I have to be taken care of. Ah, it sounds awful to me. I don't want that to really. Respect privacy. Sometimes you don't want your friends knowing things. Keep confidence. Keep confidence. Keep confidence. And what I mean by that is not, oh my God, I'm really good at something. What I mean by keep confidence is don't run your mouth about secrets. Don't tell them. Once you tell someone, it's no longer a secret. Define your friends and defend them. I can say whatever I want to about Chad and James. but I would not advise you to say anything about them to me. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Avoid public criticism. Make your friends happy. Manage jealousy. Can you get jealous of your friends? Absolutely. I'm jealous of both of them for certain things, certain aspects. And I bet they're jealous of me too if we admit things. Probably not. Share the same humor. Number nine, share the same sense of humor. Okay, that we do have that. Now they all find different things funny. I'm much more apt to laugh at something that's inappropriate, and Chad's much more much more apt to laugh at a poop joke. But we still have the same dark sense of humor and maintain equity. Okay? Do not self-disclosure, betrayal. I'm trying to go geographic separation. That's kind of all went to the side because we now live in this um, world where we no longer, like I said, we just we still stay in contact with people past this. Friendships attract romance and friends with benefits relationships. Friends deal with sexual attraction by forming a friends with benefits relationship. I don't know if it works or situationship is now, I guess, what they call it. I mean, I've been to several myself, and I bet some of you all have too. I don't know that it works, at least not long term. I'm curious if you all know if it works. Anyway, when it comes to friendship, make sure you're taking care of them. Make sure you're not just thinking of yourself. And sometimes work on what I need to work on, which is asking them for help. Because sometimes you need help and sometimes they need help from you. It's it's mutually beneficial to both. And be a good person because there's nothing in this world more valuable than a good friend. There just isn't. Somebody who will still love you no matter who you are, despite your flaws, and still help you no matter who you are, despite your flaws, and they're not even related to you. There's not a sense of obligation. That's pretty cool. At least in my book, it is. This has been Joe. Here's your assignment. Hopefully, you're getting your paper done. This is going to be your last assignment. There's one more chapter after this, but this is the last chapter assignment. I want you to tell me about your best friend and what makes them your best friend and how you can be a better best friend to them. Tell me about your best friend, what makes them your best friend, and how you can be a better best friend to them. Think about it, break it down, tell me about them, tell me why they are your best friend, and tell me how you could do a better job of being a better friend to them. I will see you all. We're almost to the finish line later.